What's up, everyone? Gerry from Arena Decklists here, back with some more bucket list action. Are we going to break it today? I don't know, but I think that this deck might actually be close. And I'm realizing now that I forgot to cut a last card. I'm currently at 61. And I was thinking maybe I'm supposed to cut a Secret Keeper or a Champion of Wits. Anyway, pressure. Okay, I'll cut a Secret Keeper. Oh, wait, no. Oh, God, I joined the league with this list already. All right, nope. We're just playing 61 today because I can't count. Tight. Good start to the video. Format, Pioneer, of course, is currently a lot of creature decks and some Field of the Dead decks. And I think that this deck does a very good job of attacking both of those angles where you have a lot of different... basically just like chump blockers, like things that can get in the way of the mono black aggro deck. And then your late game consists of Gate to the Afterlife. Go ahead and read that one if you can. Y'all might remember this from Standard. This formed a couple different decks, and you use Gate to the Afterlife to search up a God-Pharoah's Gift. You start reanimating your creatures as 4/4s. Champion of Wits will then draw you 4 cards. You'll discard 2. And then the big payoff is Agent of Treachery. So obviously this one is pretty good in creature mirrors, and maybe this is a deck where you actually like try and trigger this thing. I don't know. It seems kind of strange, but obviously if you're playing against a Field of the Dead strategy, you can punish them by either stealing any of their utility lands and setting them back, or just taking their Field of the Dead outright. And kind of funny, I'm not sure how often this will actually come up, but I kind of built my mana base with Field of the Dead in mind. Like, I do foresee matches against that deck ending up being where you have a field or two on the battlefield. How relevant is it if you're actually making zombies? I'm not sure, but I figured there are enough reasonable dual lands in the format that we can actually just split the difference on a lot of things and still end up with Field of the Dead that is active. And again, you know, it requires you to get to 7 lands and stuff like that. I mean, 6 plus you're stealing their field, so maybe it's not a big deal, but it seems kind of free and also pretty damn fun. So I'm kind of excited for that. So Emery is a big pickup for this sort of archetype where a lot of the creature-based cards are going to be artifacts anyway. Things like Smuggler's Copter and even Walking Ballista can just show up in a bunch of different decks, and they're quite good here. Walking Ballista is pretty common to cast for 0, actually, when you have Gate to the Afterlife, just because it puts a body in the graveyard, and then it allows you to loot away something else, like maybe an Agent in Treachery, and put another body in the graveyard. So Gate Ballista for 0 is pretty common, and just like Ballista by itself in kind of the mid to late game is also quite good, especially against the black decks that have a bunch of 1 toughness things. And then Smuggler's Copter is an artifact, which plays well with a lot of our other cards like Emery, and also allows you to loot and discard things. I'm only playing 3, which might seem like heresy, but I definitely wanted to not have draws where I have more copters than creatures, and also you want as many creatures in your deck for Gate to the Afterlife. So it's kind of weird because you can make the argument like Copter will loot you into creatures, blah blah blah, but whatever. I don't want to flood on Copters, so I'm not going to. But one of the best ways to kind of enable Gate, enable Smuggler's Copter, enable Emery, and also enable Glint Crane, give you enough artifacts to actually find with this thing, is Bomat Courier. So 1 mana artifact, which allows you to keep the curve very, very low, which is nice. You basically get to play out a large portion of your hand before playing the Gate. And if in post-board games they're attacking your gates either with like, you know, graveyard hate or artifact hate, then at least you have kind of like this pseudo beatdown plan, draw engine type of thing where you still get to play games of Magic, you know? So yeah, Bomat Courier enables a lot of the cards, gives Glint Crane enough things to find, makes Emery cheap enough, gives Emery a cool thing to return also, where you can just return the Bomat, attack with it, they're going to block, and then you can just trade it in for a card whenever. So we do have a light red splash, and I looked at a lot of different options as far as like things that we could do with red mana, and it's pretty light actually for a deck like this. Like the old versions played combat celebrant, and Aurelia is mostly just a better version of that, unless you're actually planning on just casting the thing. And then the removal spells like Magma Spray, Roast, stuff like that, Artifact Removal. I feel like a lot of that just kind of gets dealt with via Brazen Borrower out of the sideboard. So other than Bowman Courier, there's not a lot of red, but it does give you different named blue sources for Agent of Treachery on Field of the Dead, which is nice. And another big pickup for this sort of deck, Merfolk Secret Keeper, milling you for a lot and providing a body. And, you know, once they kill it or you chump block something, then it's a body in the graveyard for gate. So Secret Keeper's very nice. Games with this deck used to kind of play out where, like, if you had a one-drop thing that kind of turbocharged you, like before it was basically just Minister of Inquiries, you could play Gate on 3 and then crack it on 4 and just have 6 creatures immediately. And now you have more things to actually enable that sort of nut draw, which I think is really nice. So this deck should be pretty consistent. There are definitely going to be games against anything with Abrupt Decay, really, where you're going to want to sandbag your Gate until turn 5 so you can play it and crack it in the same turn. But obviously, if you have multiple Gates, you can just run one out there and make them have to actually kill this. So, Glintnest Crane finds either some random creatures to throw in the graveyard, some Smuggler's Copters that can help you loot away stuff, or the Gates themselves, which is nice. Also got a couple of Darksteel Citadels in here for the Crane and for Emery, so that's cool too. It's all coming together, you know? It's just a masterpiece, right? And old versions of this deck used to play 2 God-Pharoah's Gifts, and honestly, I don't really know why. I mean, there were enough decks, I guess, that could, like, maybe kill it and then exile it or something. I don't know. I have the second copy in the sideboard for matchups like that, where if they have Assassin's Trophy and Scavenging Ooze, for example, I mean, maybe they could actually take this thing out, but, Gate to the Afterlife gets the God-Pharoah's Gift, whether it's in your hand or in your graveyard, so I really don't think you need more than just one copy, unless you're really trying to increase, like, your Glintnest Crane hits so that you can have more things to discard a Champion of Wits or whatever. I don't know. But, mana base, a few, Aether Hubs for Minister of Inquiries, also a red source in a pinch if you need that, and then Ipnu Rivulet to mill yourself, and then, like I said, a smattering of blue-red duels. Sulphur Falls is one that we could have played, but I wanted all of my lands to ETB untapped, so that's that. And then the sideboard, we have some interaction, 6 different counter spells, Mystical Dispute, mostly good in Counter Wars, and then negates for any sort of combo deck. It's possible that maybe you need more negates because your clock is kind of slow, but depending on what deck they are, you Agent of Treachery them, even if they're, like Marvel or something, like they're probably just going to lose. And then Brazen Borrower is the card that allows you to both fight Graveyard Hate and also be the pseudo beatdown plan or beatdown deck backup plan. So I like the Borrowers a lot. Again, we could play some red cards. We could play different bounce spells. We could play things like Sidisi's Faithful. I think that's the card name. Things like Kalitas are pretty annoying. So it allows them to build an army and also exile your creatures, so you do want ways to deal with that. I think just having ways that are not permanent are probably going to be okay. Like, this should buy you enough time to actually assemble your combo and just kind of ignore the Kalitas, and it's just a huge mana sink for them too. So Borrower seems like just an automatic 4-of. It seems like the best way for you to actually transition post-board and stuff. And then a couple Pithing Needles, again, for weirdo combo decks, even just like Planeswalkers. I mean, Oko is obviously a huge problem. Like, you God-Pharoah's Gift, and then they just elk your giant artifact. But hopefully what happens is, like, they have to play out the Oko early, and then you just get to gift Agent, steal their Oko. But, yeah, I mean, I guess they could elk it, and then you just have this 3/3 sitting in play that maybe you can't get rid of, so maybe that's a reason to have the second God-Pharoah's Gift. I don't know, but other sideboard card, Aethersphere Harvester for beatdown matchups. I mean, you already have a couple sources of energy, and I like this card against the mono black decks a lot. I think it buys you a bunch of time and is also just very hard to kill. Like, they can't push it efficiently. Grasp of Darkness is usually the other removal spell they play, so unless they're splashing or they have a way to enable Fatal Push, Aethersphere Harvester is going to get in their way, probably gain you some life, so that's good. And having sideboard cards in this deck that you can also find with Glintnest Crane is nice, let me tell you. So, We're going to animate some creatures. We're going to make them 4/4s. We're going to banditize our opponent's stuff. And I guess we're just going to smash people with this 61 card deck because I can't count.